got started growing algae. I mean, I get asked this all the time, so I thought I'd share that first. It was back in 1977, and Larry and I, two guys from Berkeley, went down to the Imperial Valley, California. If you've ever been there, it's a huge agricultural area, and we went there because it was hot and sunny. And so we arrived, big flat piece of land, and we constructed a few small ponds. And we had to get the water from a canal about 100 feet away and pump it into these ponds in order to seed our culture of algae. So we went down to the equipment supply store. Big operation, big old farm guys there. And of course we arrived in our Tai Chi slippers. Because we were from Berkeley, and we told them how we were going to build an algae farm in the middle of the desert. So they found it really charming. Anyway, we got stocked up with pumps, PVC pipe, all the peripheral equipment, and so we loaded them in our truck, went back to the farm, and assembled it. Except it didn't work. We could not pump the water from the canal into our pond, so then we had to go back to the equipment supply place. And sorry, we couldn't get it to work, so he had to come out to our site. And he came out, and he inspected what we had done and how we had hooked up the pump and the pipe, and he looked at everything, and then he looked at us up and down to our Tai Chi slippers, and he said, "So you guys are going to grow algae out here, huh?" He says, "Well, the reason that you can't get the water from the canal to the pond is you have the pump installed on the wrong end of the pipe. The pump has to be out there by the canal." So he had a good laugh at our expense, but actually over the years we bought a lot of equipment from him and built that farm, and that's how the world's largest spirulina farm got started. So of course I had to ask Debbie, what do you think I should talk about? And she mentioned play, and I was following up on play and cuddling and grooming with, I think a good quality I have is the ability to, once I'm finished working or doing what I'm doing, is I can pretty much disengage from that experience more than people think and get into a completely different mode. And it's kind of free. And it's a playful mode, so that I can just, in a sense, drop it, get out of that, and get into a totally different feeling mode. And that's just a personal touch, but it feels like a certain mastery to be able to do that, disengage and take on a whole different persona. And another thing that she prompted me to mention was that I like to groom and articulate, especially things of beauty and experiences. And for example, up in my farm in Washington, we have a 150-acre farm, mostly forested. And it's a kind of a wild forest. And myself and two of my brothers who have the farm, we're very much into grooming it. It's like creating the trails through the forest and opening up special spots where the light comes in or the view comes in, and helping the beautiful trees grow more beautiful by taking out the smaller things that have grown up as weeds. So that's part of grooming a forest, or grooming the experience, and I really enjoy doing that. I don't have a script, the natural tendency to invent something, but what Lee wanted us to do really threw me for a loop, because wow, there's some big choices going on in your life, or what dilemma you want to talk about. And in fact, each person that came up had a whole new twist. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way to present it, or that's a really interesting angle, or that's really cool. And so I just want to acknowledge each of you for taking me along a wonderful journey on the process you went through. It was really interesting. So I said, well, one thing I want to accomplish in this 5 minutes is be able to get up here and to be here and just talk and converse, perhaps coherently, I hope. I hope it has like a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I don't know that it will, but we'll see. And see what happens. But then I took that a little farther, and I said, well, maybe you can actually talk about something interesting other than that process itself. So I asked myself, well, how do I make choices? I mean, what process do I go through? And I realize, of course, that I have a very strong, well-developed logical mind. And I'm very good at analyzing, deducing, dissecting a problem, and I can do that very quickly. But knowing that, I also know that that's really slow. I know how slow the analytical mind is. So in fact, when I was at lunch with Debbie and Eugenia, she said, well, do you make a lot of decisions by insights or something like this?
Intuition.
Right? And I sort of stumbled for a while, and Debbie said, yes, right away. And in fact, you're right. A lot of decisions we make, you just come to. Just channel in or something, and then I create a logical construct for it. Well, that's very interesting, because when Chuck was talking about all the problems of the world and all these big things, I think I realized for a long time that we're not going to ever figure them out. Mainly because the mind is too slow. It's designed to analyze things in boxes, which has a certain function. To figure something else once you've got the parameters and actually manifesting all that. But to get beyond where we are right now, and to take a leap far beyond to to get out of the problems we face, it really has to just be channeled in. So I have a great deal more and more respect for that, but what I want to create in myself is actually allowing that to happen on a continuous basis. In other words, while I'm maintaining on this level and all this, to have that continuous inflowing through other people, and just to have that route open. And one step farther, to develop that as a methodology. Of course, I have to use it to do that. But it's not necessarily like revelation, like something big and exciting like that, but it's just a day-to-day process of bringing in insights and then working with the other things we have, the logical mind, the heart, and all that stuff to implement it. I think that's probably the only way that we'll get out of the box that we're in, because we don't have the solutions for the hell of the mess that we're in. So anyway, that's where I've taken my personal dilemma about my choices about what I should talk about in a way of exploring what I'd like to do with my life in terms of how I know things, what I'd like to bring in, how I'd like to express them to